I guess it would help if you could hear me. Good evening and welcome to Girl Talk Sunday. I am your host, Sandi BestLife Jones, and I am here to help women just like you discover the purpose and the plan for their life through honoring God, honoring their body, and owning their worth. We are a faith based platform, and all who come in peace are welcome. All right. So before I bring my guest out, I just have to say, I have the absolute best glam squad ever. I love them so much. Actually, it's one. She does it all for me. I told her I just wanted to just, minimize, the makeup. I just wanted everything to look glowy and dewy and I don't even know what she did because I wasn't looking while she did it. But it's exactly what I wanted. My brows, I went and got my brows tinted yesterday. Mm-mm. Came home last night and I just was like, this ain't it. This is not it. So when my makeup artist got here, she just wiped everything off, all the tint, everything, and she did them over for me. And I absolutely love what she did. So if you live locally and you want to have your makeup done by a real professional, she is an amazing makeup artist. I love her so much. You can follow her on IG. Her name is Monica.Nevaeh on IG. And if you're local, reach out to her. If you have a special event coming up and you need your makeup done, Monica will get you right. She gets me right every single time. Now, I said at the beginning of this new season, which is season 3, that we have a focus word that we are really being intentional about. And it's our buzzword, our focus word. It's what we're going to be working on all of this season 3 of Girl Talk Sunday. And that word is authenticity. We want in the year of our Lord, 2024, we want to become the truest, highest, most authentic version of ourselves that we can possibly be because we know that version is the version that God created us to be. And so that's going to be my focus all of this season 3. And my guest today, he embodies that word in ways that I can't even describe. I have known Calvin Michael since he was a little boy. His family is very close and dear to my heart. And I've watched him not just grow up to be just an outstanding young man, but grow his social media presence in a way that really took me aback. I've been watching him for since 2009. I've been watching the work that he's doing on social media. And I told him this in the pre-interview. I said, I remember when you would be talking to an audience of 25, and now you have 25,000 views on your videos, 50,000, 60,000. He has a video with 100 some thousand views. And so I'm just so proud of him. I think that the work that he does is commendable. He's very humble about what he does. As a matter of fact, he said when he first started his YouTube channel, he didn't even want to promote it. He didn't want to tell anybody about it. But he grew into his gift. And he's much more than a YouTuber. He is a choreographer. He's a stand-up comedian. He's a writer and a producer and a singer. And he has a studio album coming out any day now. He's already released 2 studio albums. He's working on a short film. He has his podcast. And then he has his YouTube channel. And his YouTube following, nothing to sneeze at. I just believe that anything is possible for Calvin. I really do. Whatever it is that he wants to do, he will be able to do because his heart is in the right place. And I love the way he connects with his audience. And I always say that, what comes from the heart will always reach the heart. And I believe Calvin has been able to do that. with his audience on YouTube. And so I want to bring him out, but before I do, I want to make sure that he feels welcome. I want him to feel the love. I want him to know that we're so happy to have him here. So I need y'all to put some hearts in the chat, hearts, claps, snaps, whatever you want to put in there. Let Calvin know that you're here if you're watching, because I see that you are here. So I want to make sure that Calvin knows that you are here and that you are just as excited as I am to have him here on the Girl Talk Sunday platform. So without further ado, because I see some stuff happening in the chat, I see it. Without further ado, I'm going to bring him out. Calvin Michaels is here.
Hey.
There he is.
I'm good. All right. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even really do it justice, but you know.
Thank you.
You got your hands in a little bit of everything, but it all works together for you, right?
It does, yeah.
Yes. So I remember when you were a little boy, your family and my family went to the same church.
Okay, it's just 3 years ago. 3 years ago.
And you know how much I love your family. I love your mom. Your dad was an amazing man. He was an awesome man. I'm so glad that I had a chance to spend years around him before he went home to be with the Lord. And I wonder, and I want you to speak to this. What would he think of the work that you're doing right now? What would he say about everything that you're doing and everything that you've accomplished over these years? What do you think he would say?
You know what's crazy? I was just talking to one of my good friends, and I was like, man, he passed right before everything started to take off. But the coolest thing, it was interesting. Our very last conversation was, I want to say, the day before he had passed. But it was funny because we were laughing about the election. And so I'm like, well, I don't think they don't have to worry about Trump being the GOP nominee. I don't think America's that crazy yet. But in that same conversation, he had this whole speech where he was like, you've already surpassed my expectations of things. You've already done things I wanted you to do. So I get to kind of take that with me, which is kind of good. That conversation of the I'm proud of you. Sometimes you do need that conversation. And so I definitely got the I'm proud of you conversation. You've exceeded my expectations, and at the time I didn't have anything crazy going on in life. So it was just like, everything is good. And so my friend, when I was like, yeah, I just feel like, he passed right before the albums and the YouTube blowing up. Because honestly, I don't even think my mom might know I have one now, but I don't even think my mom knew I had a YouTube channel until maybe a year ago. So,
oh my gosh,
when I said I did not promote any of the stuff, nothing was promoted, and so it just kind of got its own legs. But I feel that he'd definitely be really happy to see all this, because I always think back, even before I really got into music, me and one of my childhood friends had made this song called 80s Baby. We were just playing around because they went to the School of the Arts. And so one of their assignments, they had to make a song. So we just were playing around, made this song called 80s Baby. And I remember my dad used to play it in the car. I'm like, Dad, please don't. We want to share it with people. I'm like, Dad, don't share this with people. But, so I can imagine how excited he would have been for this stuff. So, he's here in spirit. So it works out.
Yeah. Wow. I'm glad that you got to have that conversation with him. I just remember your dad. He was just like, when he felt like he was right, he would let you know.
Yeah, stern, to the point. No gray area. So yeah.
And he was funny too. He had like a dry sense of humor, and then he had his southern accent too. So yeah, he was. Yeah, he was a good man. I really love your parents. Period. I do. Now you are your dad was not only in the military, your mom was too. You are the son of 2 military veterans. How do you feel like that has shaped your work ethic?
I think what ends up happening, if you're a child of military parents, you move a lot. Fortunately, we really didn't move that much, but we still moved enough where there's an impact, because I definitely went to 3 different elementary schools. But I think when you get a taste of the world, and we spent some time in Europe, but when you get a taste of the world and just things that are out there, it's almost like you open a can of worms that you can't close. Like once you've been exposed to certain things, it's hard to fall fall back into a space of familiarity with what you knew in the past. And so you kind of get in a space where you're constantly growing. And I was thinking back to even the last year that we were in Italy, and this is when everything was happening with Yugoslavia and Kosovo and Slobodan Milosevic. And it was to the point where, you
Mhm.
know, they're having to bomb sniff the school buses and have a police escort to the school because, you know, it's international war type stuff going on. We're right there. Yugoslavia is
Mhm.
right across from the Adriatic Sea, and then Italy's right there. So you have people coming into Italy, you know, looking for asylum and everything. So there were a lot of people who weren't happy with us at the time. And I'm
Mhm.
10 or
Mhm.
11 wondering why, you know, why they throwing eggs at our bus, you know, and why is there bombs going, you know, there was a basketball game at Camp Darby and somebody put bombs in the trash can. So, you know, that kind of stuff, you're 10 or 11 and you see that, you just never see the world the same way again. And
Yeah.
I think it forces you to mature really fast. And
Mhm.
I think just the idea of being introduced to so many different people all the time. The
Mhm.
challenge is you make these great friends and then one of y'all got to move. And so
Yeah,
you
I was
learn to
gonna
really put
say,
your energy into your work.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say, did you make friends easily, or was it awkward for you because you moved so much?
I think it's harder now as an adult than it was as a kid. As a kid, you know,
Mhm.
you just fall in any space.
Right. Right.
As an adult, I do think it kind of plays an effect with how you move with people because you get so used to people coming and going that sometimes it can
Mhm.
be hard to lock in with
Mhm.
people. But I will say I was fortunate. I had some really good lifelong friends. Some of the friends I made in Italy, I'm still friends with today, which is really cool. Even the
Really?
friends I made before we moved to Italy, fortunately, because my parents kept getting stationed at Joint Base Lewis McChord every time. It was kind of like just
Right.
coming back
Right.
to home base every time we would move. So I have different sets of friends that I've grown up with. So that kind of works. You get a little bit of everything.
Mhm. So when did you know that you had this gift? You are an artist in every sense of the word, whether it's cinematic, whether it's music, whatever, dance, because you're a choreographer too. When did you know you had these gifts? Was it in childhood or was it when you got older?
I think it just came in waves. I know when we lived in Italy, we didn't have TV because you only had one. Well, they probably have cable and stuff now because we were in Italy in the 90s. So at the time, you only had one channel, AFN. And so you
Mhm.
didn't really watch a lot of TV. AFN was, I think it was American Forces Network, but
Mhm.
it was a network that would just take the best of what was on TV in America and put it in one channel. But you know, your favorite shows might come on at 2 in the morning or something because they're trying to put so much stuff on. So you didn't really watch TV. So I spent a lot of time doing other stuff. I was building houses with Legos and the choreography came into a space where this lady, my mom had this friend Sergeant Senior, and she had
Mhm.
brought Janet's Velvet Rope DVD. Oh, it wasn't even DVD. It was she
Oh
recorded it
boy.
off the TV, off HBO,
Mhm.
with not the commercials, but everything they got going. And when she brought that, I hadn't really seen music or anything for a few years because again, no TV, not really any radio, so you don't know what's happening in the United States musically.
Mhm.
And I saw that concert and was hooked. I did the dancing, and then I just be in my little TV and trying to copy that, and then copy whatever Michael had. And
Yeah.
I didn't start teaching dance or choreography till I was much older, but those
Mhm.
early beginnings or those humble beginnings kind of teach you to understand rhythm and technique and skill and precision. And then I do think also just being a church kid teaches you to be comfortable in front of audiences. All those Sunday school reviews you had to do when you did Sunday school, and then you stand in front of everybody, speak up, and you okay, you know, or if you had to do the sunshine band, right? And so
Right.
all of that
Right.
is practice, right? That gets you locked in there, and before you know it, you're really comfortable in front of audiences. So I think
Yeah.
it came in waves,
Yeah.
just different bits.
So what was middle school Calvin like?
Oh Lord.
Oh.
You know, it's funny. I have 3 podcast episodes on middle school, but
Mhm.
I because middle school was around the time we had moved back to the United States.
Mhm.
I felt like I was kind of playing catch up culturally. I was
Yeah.
kind of the odd one out because again, like music, I was 3 or 4 years behind on. Like I was telling somebody the other day, like, you know, I didn't even know Biggie Smalls had died until I come back to America. He had been gone for 2.5 years, and I saw something. I was like, y'all knew Biggie died, and I'm like, yeah,
Lord.
like years ago. I'm like, oh, okay, you know, I ain't know, right? So it's kind of like when because we left, I think the end of '96 going into '97. So when I came back to the US, which was summer '99,
Mhm.
I'm still operating with the mindset that the United States was like it was when I left, and so much had changed, right?
Right.
So then by the time you start getting middle school, things that I
Mhm.
was interested in, everybody didn't care about. You know, I
Mhm.
wasn't a big video game person. I didn't really care about Pokemon, and Pokemon was huge when I got back, right? Everybody had Pokemon cards. I remember, you know, Aaron.
Yeah.
I remember one time we were ironing his Pokemon cards because it was a serious business. You needed them to stay like straight and flat.
Oh my gosh.
So like that kind of stuff. Like I remember, yeah, because he was serious about Pokemon. So I remember like I would help him try to iron cars to keep them like straight. So I was pretty quiet. I don't think I really came into my own until high school.
Yeah.
I was in everything. I was definitely in theater. I played football for 2 years, oddly enough. Football, track. I did everything, but I was pretty quiet.
Yeah.
And I even think as an adult, I'm pretty quiet as well. If I'm on stage or something, you know, I know how to turn it on. But like, I think a lot of people, if they meet me in person, if they don't know me very well, they're like, he's pretty quiet, pretty nimble. So yeah.
Yeah. So I remember when you were getting ready to go to high school, and it was probably your junior year, actually, when you're getting ready to graduate. I mean, it was around your junior year, and you started looking at colleges, and then senior year rolled around, and you guys made the announcement that you were going to be going to Howard University, and I was so excited for you. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to HBCU!"
Right.
I wonder what was that first? No, first I want to know: was it hard for you to leave home? Was that hard for you?
Yes and no. I knew I was ready to go, and it's just you're a teenager. You think you know everything. You and your parents are clashing,
Yeah,
and again, because I got the luxury of living in different places, I always knew there was something more. And how
right.
I ended up even discovering Howard, because I never knew anything about HBCUs. I thought Atlanta A&T from Drumline was a real school, and I remember my friend, they had an HBCU college fair in
Yeah,
Seattle. They took me to go to the fair, and I was looking for Atlanta A&T. Like, where's that school at? Where's the school from Drumline? They're like, no, that's it's not a real
and
school.
still
So,
looking, Lord.
it was hard to leave, but you were more excited than fearful, so that made the transition easy. Plus, my dad came with me, so that kind of helped a little bit. And then, fortunately for me, my dad's family lives on this side, so I got to meet a bunch of relatives I didn't know. So I
Oh,
had an
good.
easy transition over.
Yeah. So what was that first year like at Howard?
Hey, hated it, hated it, hated it.
You
I wanted
hated
to
it?
so bad, but I was not gonna tell my parents because I needed to prove that I'm good.
Yes,
It
you
wasn't
hated it.
even that it was bad, but Spanaway in itself is a very
Oh,
unique place to be from. So to come from a small town where, you know, there's not
mhm.
even a downtown. Downtown was Pacific Commons with the Kmart and the Dairy Queen and Hidalgo Mexican restaurant back in the day. That's downtown. And then
Right.
Walmart came, right? So to go from that to being in a major metropolitan city and you're surrounded by people who are from all over the world. Everybody
Mhm.
has different ways of doing things. And you get humbled. I was the cream of the crop at Spanaway Lake High School. You know, I'm, top 5% of the class, student body president, the dance, and this, that.
Mhm.
And you get to Howard, and everybody is that. Right? Every
Mhm.
last person. I remember I auditioned for the dance team and didn't make it. I said, me? And mind you, like I was getting paid at that point to teach dance in Spanaway. So I'm like,
Oh,
hey, tell me I can't be on the team. And so that first year was not that great. I wasn't doing that great in the classes. I remember
mhm.
I had a hip hop class I was in, like literally hip hop history. Barely made it through that class. I said, I
You
just
barely hip hop history?
barely made it through. For me to be the music guru I am, I struggled in that class. I think I worked so hard in high school that when I got to college, I was in relaxation vacation mode the first year. And now I can go to the club and
Mm,
the clubs are open and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm outside, right? Just
oh
making
my.
terrible choices. And so freshman year was not really that great. However, I found my tribe by sophomore year, like my lifelong friends I made. And then from then on, it was amazing. But that first year was a hard transition. And I think that's anybody's college experience, especially if you're 3,000 miles away. You know,
Mhm.
small things you miss, right?
Mhm.
Simple things. So that adjustment, adjusting, meeting new friends, and
Mhm.
again, there was always this inside joke where folks are like, "Yeah, people from Washington State are weird." And I'm like, "Well, excuse me." And then like, they had state clubs for because all the states are represented. So they had like a New Yorkers Unlimited for the New York students, and it's like 1,000 of them. And then they had
Mhm.
like the California State Club, Washington State Club. It was about 12 of us, right? And then it didn't help. I'm the only one from Spanaway. They're all Seattle, so they're frying me up,
Mhm.
like man. And so yeah, I remember those times.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it got really good towards the end. Then I didn't want to leave. Yeah,
Oh, so you started out majoring in poli sci,
yeah.
and then you decided, I don't
Because
think I
it
want
was,
to.
yeah, I wanted to do music
Mhm.
business. I wanted to be A&R. I wanted to go, I still kind of do sometimes, but I wanted to go and manage other artists and help promote and market their albums when they come out. And I was political science at the time, and I knew, okay, this is not even remotely close to what you want to do. So that's when I shifted to communications. And it doesn't help. Howard already has this massive alumni of entertainers and everything. And so sometimes you'd be walking on the yard to class and you see the fine arts students and they're hanging out because Debbie Allen is coming today to do a lecture. Meanwhile, you're going to your, introduction to political theory class. Like, yay, so much fun, right? So I was like, all right, I want to do something different. But so I made political science my minor because I was still passionate about community work and politics and everything. But I just wanted to make sure I had a balance of doing the things I'm passionate about, but also doing things that needed to be done.
Yeah, your commentary on politics keeps me informed because I don't even watch that mess no more. I'm telling you, this last election cycle, when Biden got into the office, I said, I have got to let this go because I was, just.
It was a lot, yeah.
24-hour news all the time. So I haven't even been watching it. So when I watch your commentary, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what's going on.
And living in DC, you can't escape it. It's everywhere. This is lawyer, lobbyist, politician town. So the hardest thing is sometimes you might be going to a restaurant and there might be a senator or a congressman that you are not crazy over that's coming in the restaurant too. And you think of all the things you want to say to them and you can't because they got security. And so, man, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the work that you did with the Boys and Girls Club, because it was award winning. And I have seen so many photos of you and President Obama, you at the White House, you with all my favorite celebrities. And I just want to know, okay, what the work that you were doing was, people knew about this work that you were doing with these young people. I want to know, what was it about working with youth that called out to you? Why youth?
It's funny how it came together because that wasn't in the plan. I was going to finish undergrad, maybe take a year to figure out life because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and then go to grad school. That was the idea. So I ended up coming home because I didn't have my stuff together. And so I came back to the bunk bed I had when I was 12 at 22. And, and I remember I could not find a job to save my life. And mind you, the recession was still kind of winding down. So I'm in competition with people who have been working for 20 and 30 years who got laid off. And so here's this fresh-faced kid with no work experience. My only work experience is being a choreographer and a resident assistant. So yeah, they're not hiring you. But while I was at Howard, I used to volunteer at there was a neighborhood Boys and Girls Club called the Kingman Boys and Girls Club that I used to volunteer at. And so after about a year of trying to find a job and getting no luck, and it's also how I jumped into YouTube and comedy and everything else just to stay occupied. I was like, let me check out like Boys and Girls Club with the kids. Maybe that's a thing I could do, right? And as I was applying, because it was random, I applied at like 4 a.m. Pacific time, and they had responded within the hour. I was like, okay. And I mean, a week later, I had an interview, and 3 weeks later, I was on the plane moving. And so I never planned to be there 11 years, but it just picked up, right? Things started going really well, especially once some management has shifted around and I was given a bit more leeway because I was in charge of the center that I worked at. And so, once we were able to shake some things up a bit and I was given more leverage with how to run the center, everything just came together. I mean, and we just started like just knocking these accolades out the park, right? The graduation rate for high school students was like 100% for the majority of the time I was there. I think when I left, it was closer to like 98. You get them 1 or 2 that are going to make their choices. But like high school graduation rate was really, really high. Kids that are going off to college, again, that rate was really, really high. And what the company did was they had a thing called National Youth Outcomes Initiative. It's like a survey type thing. And it's a way to assess all of your centers. And so by the time we got to about 2015, 2016, I had no idea my center was doing that well until they put your numbers in and they measure you up against the other 4,600 centers across the country. And it's like 2016, they're like, you realize your center's like ranked number 4 in the country right now. It's like, us? Because I didn't even have a big center. I didn't have the gyms and the pool. No, we were in a public housing complex and they just gutted a 3-bedroom apartment and turned it into a center. So I didn't even have a football field. We ain't had none of that. So we had to just be creative. And me and my team, we just said that place was like the living room. That's how we treated it. So like, 2016, we were number 4. And then we went to number 1 because we had a perfect score.
Wow.
years. So yeah, number one, 2017, 2018, 2019, and again in 2021. They didn't take it in 2020. We was closed. But yeah, it came out of nowhere. And the good thing was that, again, we had a small center. And I think the reason it worked was because I had the same cohort of kids from 2011 onward. So they grew up with me. You get to know their families. I literally just had one of she's 23, 24 now. You know, I just had people calling me for her security clearance. You know, how well do you know this person? I'm like, dang, this is one of the kids I used to, be with, when they were in 6th or 7th grade. So that's
but Calvin, listen though, because young people don't trust easily. There was something about you that they trusted, something that you were able to connect with them in a way that made them keep coming back year after year after year. What do you think that was?
One, I think because they hired me so young. I had just turned 23 when I started. Like, I interviewed on my 23rd birthday, and I started. So I never came in there trying to be Major Payne. I didn't come in there kicking the door down. I was like, all right, I'm only a few years removed from y'all. But I think I utilized all the artsy stuff I was into to kind of run the center. I was always telling jokes. We incorporated music in a lot of stuff, even with like how we were teaching and doing homework and everything. Lots of music. I remember there was a period I was teaching dance. I was the soccer coach. We had cooking club, cooking class, reading club. We had all these different things we were doing. And I think kids can, just like I say with like pets, pets can always read good energy. Kids are the same way, especially little ones. They know. And so, yeah, I think my parents were very laid back with me with parenting. They were still very stern and very strict, but it wasn't, if something went wrong, it was not going to be the end of the world. So I approached the kids the same way. And I gave them a lot of leverage to make choices. And and even if I knew the choice was going to end in chaos and they were going to learn the hard way, let them learn,
Because that's how life is.
So they had space. I think my coworkers to fight me, but I clearly was the favorite staff member. So, I was the fun one. I mean, my team, everybody was really good, but the kids knew if they needed to get over, they could come to me probably. And so, they would try it that way.
So you worked at the Boys and Girls Club for 11 years, this award-winning program. And then, but you were still working on your YouTube channel at the same time, right?
Yes, and they found it. They found everything I had. I couldn't have nothing. I remember when my first album came out. And again, just like how you were saying earlier, I didn't really promote the channel. The first album, I just kind of dropped it and went on my merry way because I didn't plan on making one. And I remember I was in a room and I heard my voice on one of the computers. And I looked and I see all my teenage boys hovering around the computer. I was like, oh.
The kids.
And it was one song. It was a song where I was rapping. I was like, no. Oh, they had a field day. They were like, my feelings were so hurt. They were having a field day. They enjoyed it. They thought that was so funny. So yeah, everything I had, they found everything. So I was like, man, yeah. But it was kind of cool though. They looked up to you. They thought you were cool, so they wanted to be a part of everything you were doing. So even when I had like a web series some years ago, they were in one of the episodes because they begged to be in it. It's like, all right, fine. So, yeah.
We have a question for you in the chat. It says, do you think that role requires more of a type A super planner personality?
I think you need a collaborative environment. You definitely need somebody who is like, because I'll say that the main person I work with, she was really on point with like keeping stuff locked in, dates, deadlines, Excel. That's her thing. I'm also that as well, but I'm a little bit more sporadic and spontaneous. So you need a cohort of everything. There's 4 personality types you need. You need one person who is the driver, right? The person who's going to get everything done, no ifs, ands, or buts. It's going to get done. You're going to have the person who is all about the experience, right? Let's make sure it's a great experience for everybody. You're going to have the person who is the nurturer, or the person that's super, super compassionate. They're the person that's going to say, well, let's consider how this makes people feel before we do it. And then you're going to have the person who's organized. And if you can have at least 4 of those people in a system working together, it creates that environment where everything aligns, right? So again, we were an underfunded center at the time, short-staffed, not a lot of resources. Being in a space to make it work, you got to have people who are driven and locked in, and again, a personality that is also likable too. The kids got to like you, right? And once the kids like you and you can win them over, it's sailing from there, because then they have a respect for the establishment. and as new kids come in, there's new things come in. They maintain the culture. So even though I'm not there anymore, the dopest thing is the center's culture hasn't changed. It's still there. So when I drop in and just say what's up, or coming in with donuts and annoy the staff because they're like, okay, you can't keep coming in just doing fun stuff now because now you're like the fun uncle and we got to be the bad guys. That culture is still there. Like the kids just, they could run that place without us. They'd be fine.
So the mutual church that we went to, the Maranatha Family Worship Center right here in Skooma, Washington, we had a really active youth program back when you were a kid. And the Maranatha Youth Center was like the place to be for the kids at the church. How much of that would you say, and more specifically, how much of Sister Barbara Taylor, God rest her soul, how much of her influenced the way that you worked with the kids at the Boys and Girls Club, would you say?
Yeah, hold on, I gotta grab one thing because I was just telling this to her daughter the other day.
Okay.
Let's see if I can grab it. Okay, my bad. But no, Miss Sister Taylor was like God sent because she was so understanding. So before we moved to Italy, she went and she gave me this right before we left, right? And so this is like Barkley, who else is on here? Oh, look, Barkley, O'Neal, Jordan, right? She gave me that right before we had moved. And I always kept it, which is really cool. But Sister Taylor, she was one, like I said, like when I was talking about when you had to speak in front of the church, she was one who held a standard that you had to abide by. You couldn't go up there just doing anything, right? Even if you wanted a snack,
right.
If there was something you had to do in front of everybody, like if it was children's church and we were on that side, or if it was anything happening where she needed us, as far as events or anything, or you needed kids on the program, she was going to help you, but you also couldn't skate. She was going to hold you to a standard. And I think what's important with kids is in the same way you have an expectation of children to do whatever they're supposed to do, they have to have one of you. They have to always know what they're getting. Right. Sister Taylor, you knew what you were getting every time. So you couldn't skate by her at all. And then again, because she was nurturing and compassionate, she could tell you all about yourself. And you didn't even know you were getting yelled at because she was soft spoken. So, she's like, wait a minute, did she? Excuse me? Okay, fine. All right. Go do it then. So, she was, I was sad to see that she transitioned, but
Me too. I remember when my son, when he was little, and he was supposed to do an Easter speech, and he didn't want to do it because my Mike was really shy, and I just remember Sister Taylor telling him, Mike, shyness is of the devil. You are going to say this speech, you are going to enunciate your words, and you're going to make sure that everybody in this audience can hear you, and he did.
Because she would not take I can't do it for an answer, especially with she was really serious about reading. She was gonna make you get comfortable reading and all that. She was not playing about that. So that was good. There's memories from that.
When you positively impact a child's life the way you did at the Boys and Girls Club and the way Sister Taylor did with your life, it makes such a huge difference in the way they see themselves as they grow up. I think it's their first introduction into owning, honoring, and walking in their worth. You have the power to do that when you work with young people. And I think that's part of the reason why they kept coming, because they knew that you saw their worth and you helped them see their own worth. So would you say that's true?
It's true. And then some of them just greedy. They knew we had snacks. But no, it's all of that. And I will say that was a special neighborhood to work in because it was one where everybody knew everybody. They already had their own collective before I got there. And so I just worked what was already there. And because it was in their neighborhood, the school bus dropped off right in front of the center. So it would be hard for some kids to just get off the bus and go home. They want to see what we were doing in the center. And then, we always had cool things going on. So it's again, relationships and that familiar thing when the longer you're there, the more impact, or the more you get to see the outcomes of your impact. Because the coolest bit is you're at work and sometimes, like one time this woman came in with a baby and she's like, hello, I'm like, oh, hey, how you doing? She's like, Mr. Michael. I'm like, huh? And I realized it was one of those early high schoolers I had when I first started. So she was about 28 at this point. And I was like, okay. But the fact that they know they can always come and visit like that, those are the kind of things where they lock in. And then they invite you to their college graduations and weddings. And
that's everything the best. Watch them grow and mature and have their own families and their own kids eventually. And it's the cycle of life. It's just they just pay it forward. Everything that you gave to them, hopefully they'll pay it forward to someone else.
Right.
That's the best part, I think. So you were with that program for 11 years, and then you moved on into what you're doing now?
Yeah. Working in
Yeah.
web development. Yeah.
And you, in this new role that you have with the new company, were just named Employee of not the week, not the month, Employee of the Year, Mr.
Yeah.
Calvin Knight.
And that was a
Like,
pleasant surprise. I was like, because what's crazy is I almost didn't take this job because I didn't want to leave the kids. I had to get over the
mhm,
guilt of leaving and understanding. I had to tell myself it's okay. You've given
mhm,
11 years. You can always volunteer. You can always stuff.
right,
And then the things that you want to do in life, the biggest thing you can do for them is let them see you be successful, so they can be like, okay, well, that was Mr. Michael, or he could do it, so we can do it too, kind of thing. And so, because I turned a job down twice.
mhm,
Before I finally was like, all right, I'll do this. And I was nervous because I barely knew what I was doing. I told him in the interview, like, I don't know how to use half the stuff y'all talking about, but I can learn. And I gave the example of, I built my own recording studio and I didn't know how to use that either. And 2 hours later, here we are. So I guess that
wait,
was
you
enough.
said that in the
I
interview?
said it because I was unsure. The job at the time sounded so boring compared to
Yeah,
what I was, because with the kids, no day is the same, right?
right.
We were making snacks, this dance party, laughing they outside. I really got to have a second childhood with the kids. Like I had never been laser tagging until I worked with the kids. So that kind of stuff. So to go from that to, you're gonna be doing this and you're gonna be putting this document, it's like, it sounds boring. But the pay was good. So and I need it because I need to fund my projects.
Right.
And so, but I was very honest with them. I was like, camera's out of focus. I was very honest, like, okay, I can learn this stuff. It's a little foreign, but give me a minute. I'm pretty tech savvy, and they took a chance with me. And so, yeah, a year later, here we are. That was a pleasant surprise. I did not think I was getting that. I was
Wow.
because it was at like the holiday dinner thing. I was mid chew when they come by there. Ooh.
I remember you
Right.
said, I was trying to enjoy my food and I heard my name.
Yeah, I was like, Lord, I'm trying to, right? You got that croissant, the bread all in between your teeth and the lip and the cheek. I'm trying to, like, man. So yeah, that's been cool.
Let's talk about Calvin Michaels, the social media influencer. Your show on YouTube is the simplicity of it, I think, is what makes it so popular because your commentary, you just provide commentary. You're talking about politics, you're talking about pop culture, you're talking about sports, you're talking about racism and discrimination, all of the things that affect all of us as a society. Your commentary is based on that.
Yeah.
But there is a reason why 60 something thousand people, 70 something people are watching your commentary. And again, it goes back to trust. They've connected to you in a way because they trust, first of all, what you're going to say. They trust you to be yourself, and they want to hear what you have to say. So when you are talking, when you're giving your commentary on your show, and then you go back, do you go back and look at the comments?
Yes. Well, I do this in phases.
Mhm.
I will look at the comments for the first 2 days. After
Right.
that, I don't know who's showing up and what they're gonna say. So for my peace of mind, especially when we have the heavier conversations, especially around race and stuff, you're
Yeah.
gonna get those people who totally 100% disagree, which is fine. But you
Right.
also gonna get the ones who are just straight up trolls, and then now your mama's a crackhead and everything else. And so them comments sound entertaining. But I always I try to read, especially if I do a live. I'll go
Mhm.
back and sit and read the entire live chat in real time just to see, because sometimes people are asking questions about things they want support with or something like that, or
Right.
hey, can you come on my show or something? So I always look at all that to make sure I don't miss anything. So
Mhm.
yeah, I try to make sure I see comments, and I know normally the first 2 days are the subscribers. General public normally comes on day 3 or 4 to
Right.
discover stuff.
Right. I said this in your pre-interview, and I'm going to say it here openly because I believe it wholeheartedly, and I want to read this to you. I said to you that the scripture that says, "To whom much is given, much is required," you remind me of that scripture. That scripture applies to you in every way, on every level, because you're multifaceted, you're multi-talented, but the work that you do is heart-centered, which is why people are can connect to it. That's why your following on YouTube is so big. Over 65,000 people are subscribed to your YouTube channel. you're following on Instagram, you're following on your podcast. All of it has to do with the heart-centered work that you do. And so I want to read this to you because I was doing some research earlier today, so I'd be ready for the show today. With this particular part, I want to read this. It says, "To whom much is given, much will be required." And that's found in Luke 12:48. And it says, "If you have heard that line of wisdom, you know it means we are held responsible for what we have. If we have been blessed with talents, wealth, knowledge, time, and the like, it is expected that we benefit others." Is that the way you see life?
Actually, yes. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah. I just always learned. You remember that song? Gosh, what's her name? Well, it's the song "Serve You Only." They used to play it on 1560 every day. But that line where she talks about her mom saying, "Sing a song for two as you would for 1,000." That's how I've moved with everything. Everything is intentional. Everything that I want to get behind has purpose. And again, the benefit of getting to live around the world and being around so many different people, you learn to look at life through not just your own lens, but how you think other people see the world. And then you kind of take the different pieces and the different parts, and then that's how you kind of move. And I think maybe that's why YouTube has worked. Because honestly, even though that channel has grown, that was a labor of love. Many years of doing videos and nobody was watching, right? And again, me being bashful and just not promoting the channel because I was like, I don't want nobody laughing at me because I'm on YouTube, So like, yeah, I think all that plays a role. And I think with the kids too, and that's kind of what I tell the kids too. You have all these gifts and talents, use them. Because one thing, I don't think anybody wants to, when your time is up, regret the experience while you were here, regret things that you didn't get to do, right? And so that's kind of been my thing. Is like, let me jump into everything I want to do, and even if it doesn't go well, at least I can say I did it. So.
Right. Would you say that you are an extroverted introvert?
Yes.
Yeah.
I like my me time. I enjoy quiet. Like when the pandemic kicked in and we all had to quarantine, that was heaven for me. I was like, what? I ain't got to be around nobody? Okay, great. I was having a great time. And so, that's definitely me.
So, okay. So your YouTube channel is popping and you decide, I think I want to write and produce a short film. I mean, why not? Tell us about the short film that you're working on.
So that actually, it stems a little deeper. So how do I word all this? So I launched the podcast, Comedically Hardheaded, in 2018.
Right.
And in 2021, there was a girl, Caitlin Shane, who she's a director out of Howard and also USC's film school, who heard the podcast, fell in love with it, and was like, let's collab, let's do something. And so she and I started writing different treatments and just doing different things. So since 2021, we've been working together on a bunch of things. And then she had the idea where she was like, you know what? Let's do a proof of concept. Let's take an idea and just do a short. Just because, when we want to go and say we want to pitch whatever we're doing, we want to have something tangible to show. And so she was like, let's do a short film based on one of the podcast episodes. And like right away, we both knew which one we wanted to do. And it was like, let's do the one where I talked about having to learn how to drive with my parents in the car. Like, let's do that one. Right. And so that's the short film. The short film is called Pull Over So I Can Hit You. And that's because that's what my father said to me in the car after we almost ran through a four-way stop. Like it was that day, you got me and my dad in the car. You got Marcus in the back, my mom in the back with her purse. And so it's not a normal experience. You're not supposed to have all the people in the car when somebody's trying to learn, right? And so that episode was just so funny, but so real because everybody has that experience. And it's just a universal, experience that people have as far as that first or second or third drive with the parents in the car and how you almost killed a family a few times. And so we had to figure out how to shorten a 45-minute podcast and turn it into like a 15-minute short, which was a challenge because if you're the person that made it, you want to keep everything. I was like, nope, that can't come out. We got to keep that. We got to keep that. And so we have it condensed. And so we restructured it and reimagined it. So it's not solely the podcast episode and short film. It's a reimagined version with different names, different characters, but a lot of the same themes. And so that's how that became a thing. And then we crowdfunded to raise some of the funds to get it started. And then a lot of it was working the resources you have and connections and making calls and favors and praying and crying and praying and crying some more and crying a little bit more and then crying some more and then you cry a little bit more. Like, man, yeah, it's a labor of love. The final product looks amazing, but it's been a lot of work, but it was a great experience.
Yeah. So how far out are you from dropping that?
So the plan is we are about to pretty much, the director's gonna find me because she said stop telling everything. But long story short, if I can talk in parables, we're gonna jump into a bunch of different competitions pretty much. And once that kind of winds down, then we're gonna figure out distribution. And so likely distribution will be on one of the streaming services. Or, even the airlines at this point have streaming services on the flights for even short films. So we're kind of still weighing out the options, but yeah, we're going to use the summer of 2024. And as the different releases are available, depending on which competitions, because these will be open to public, I'll start sharing where people can watch as they come in. And so we'll figure out from there.
So if someone wanted to donate to help you complete your film, how would they do that?
Well, we had the Indiegogo. The Indiegogo has closed at this point just because it wrapped. I mean, I'm on Cash App. Give me a beat. That's the name. GIMMIEABAT.
Right here.
Give me a beat, right? So that's Cash App. You can Cash App if you would like to donate. And it's really cool. There's been so many people from YouTube who have always donated just for me to give snacks for the kids and stuff. They would always like, oh my God, can we donate for the kids and stuff? So them kids have gotten all kind of Xboxes and video games and Monopoly, all kind of things from people who were just generous and like, we love what you're doing. Can we support the kids? So that's always really cool. Right.
All right. So you've got your short film that you're working on. You've got your YouTube channel. You've got Comedically Hard-Headed, your podcast, and your third studio album is coming out as well. Talk to us about that.
The cool thing about that is there's a huge surprise around it, and people, it'd be interesting when they find out what it is as it comes out. So that's really cool. Music is interesting because I've just always loved it. The craziest part is I don't even want to be an entertainer. I just like making music. My goal would more so to be make music for other people, but I just like making it for myself as well. And so everything is self-produced. Like I said, I built my own recording studio. Lots of sounds, I'll say. I always like to experiment. I love throwback music, my favorite eras of music of the 70s, 90s, 80s, all that stuff. So lots of influence from that. If I were to say, what does it sound like? It's very bright. I like high energy music. I like music that makes people feel good. So it's bright, it's upbeat, energetic, definitely great for going to the gym or if you're having a party, however you're doing, whatever. But then there's also a lot of tracks that are very in-depth, that have layers, that are slowed down, that are more mature. And I took it real serious this go around. I went and got some singing lessons just to kind of clean up things and everything. Because I've always said I have a lot of raw talent, right? I never took professional classes to learn how to dance or anything. I just did it and started teaching. Same with music. I can't read music, but I can play by ear. Everything is all self-taught. So I went and got like singing lessons, voice lessons, just to learn what exactly I could do with my voice, right? And so we already shot the music video. That's supposed to actually drop. I was aiming for the end of March, but I think it's going to drop closer into April. And then our tentative release date is May 7th for the album. So we're going to see if we can make that deadline. If not, it'll still be in the summer because it's feel-good music. I don't want it coming out when it's getting cold.
Right. That's one of the things that I love about you, Calvin, because you have this belief in yourself. And like you said, you had all this raw talent. So you went and you took vocal training lessons. You learned how to dance so that you could teach other people how to dance. Like you're a whole choreographer too. So it's just the belief that you have in yourself. And anything is possible if you're willing to work for it. And I think that is such a powerful message to share, especially with the youth, but with the world at large. It doesn't matter if you're not an expert in it. If it's something that you love to do, just go do it. You never know how God wants to bless your endeavor. But if you don't even try to do it, then you don't know what can become of it. I always, when I worked for a technical college here where I lived, I used to tell my students, because they were trying to figure out, well, what should I study? What should I get training in? And I would tell them, what do you already do well naturally?
Hmm.
Your credential in that.
Yeah.
Because that way work doesn't feel like work. It just feels like you're doing what you love and you're getting paid to do it. And that
Right.
was always my advice to all of my students. Sit down with yourself and think about something that you already do well naturally. And then go to school to get a credential in that. And then you will
Right.
you'll love your job. Your career. It won't even feel like you're working. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Because it's all about if you could do something and get paid to do it, or if you could do
Yeah.
something, if you were happy to do something that you weren't getting paid to do, what would it be?
Mhm,
Right. So that's
mhm.
that's how I've always moved in everything. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
still the same thing with my kids too, because I do feel for this current generation. They got a lot on their shoulders. I thought
Yeah.
millennials had it bad, but Gen Z and that Gen Alpha that's coming up, they got a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I always try to tell and remind them, like, the thing that used to concern me sometimes when you talk to like a 15 or 16-year-old, it's like, okay, well, what do you want to do? And they like, oh, well, I'm just gonna. And I would always stop them as soon as I heard the word "just," because I'm like, when
Mhm.
you're 15 or 16, you're supposed to still want to have a record label and go to the moon and shoot 10 movies
Right.
to be in the NFL. If you're already talking about just doing something at 15 or 16, you're already settling. You haven't even
Yeah.
lived yet. Like, and I
Right.
always tell them, like, y'all, and the kids would know, because sometimes I used to work for a magazine at one point too. So sometimes I'd literally be working with the kids and then rushing to get the train so I could be to New York and go cover a film festival or something like that. And so the kids
Mhm.
always knew, like, Mr. Michael was always working on something. So I'm like, if you guys see me helping y'all with homework, going to your basketball game and going to your school recital and doing all this other stuff, and then still working on my things, like, I'm still at this big age of mine working on stuff for me. Y'all
Yeah.
can't be here talking about what you're just gonna do and settle. Y'all are moving like y'all at 62 and you didn't work for 40 years. Like, I'm gonna just do this. No, you're not. Go. And if you don't know, it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to. You're gonna change your mind a million times. Because I had a lot of kids who everybody was gonna be doctor, lawyer, engineer, and I was like, I love that for you, but make sure it's what you want to do, and not just because you see how great the paycheck is gonna be. So
Right.
yeah,
Because sometimes the most meaningful work that you'll ever do is not about the pay.
because listen, working with them kids was great, but I was getting paid in increments of struggle for them 11 years. So, and I will say, at least because YouTube started taking off, it definitely helped to pay some bills. Because yeah, I
Yeah.
wasn't making a whole lot. In the nonprofit world, it's a field you're not going to make money in. You're not really there to be wealthy, right? And
Right.
so yeah, it's a lot of sacrifice, and the
Mhm.
reward is seeing the outcomes and the kids getting to meet Obama, and you get to be on the Today Show, and they get to do all that kind of cool stuff. So that kind of balances out the discrepancy as far as what you're tangibly getting, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So before we end the show, I have this round robin game that I want to play with you. This is our first time doing it, so you get to be our guinea
Well,
pig.
I got to be the guinea pig. All right.
I'm going to say a word or a phrase, and I just want you to say what the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
All
All
right.
right. Oh my God, this is so funny. Okay,
Let's see
okay,
if
here
I'll
we go.
embarrass myself. Okay.
Diddy.
Okay, you know what? 310. And 310 because when I was at Howard, I actually had his same dorm room at Drew Hall. He was in room 310A. I was 310B. A is just the other side of the room. It was a double. So
Okay.
310. That's all I'll say for Diddy. That's all I got for him.
Okay. Biden.
I will say familiar. And what I mean by that is, or do I have to explain these, or I'm just saying the word?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I'll
you
say
can.
familiar, just saying, because I feel like the success he's been able to have as far as people putting him in office is there was an element of familiarity, and people
Mhm.
felt like, okay, we'll take our gamble with this guy that we've known since 1972 that's been in office versus some of the other
Mhm.
people who've been showing up. So I will say that.
Okay. Renaissance.
I ain't get to go.
Ah,
I ain't get to go. Tickets was too high.
oh,
Man, but great album. Lots of fun. Like I said, I like bright music, so that was a fun album. I didn't get to go to the show. I was still mad about it, but it's fine. Yeah.
Thriller.
Blueprint. I'll say it's the blueprint of how
Yeah.
to set up modern albums, where because when you just think back then, a lot of times albums before around. Well, I'll also say like Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On" and the
Why do
album.
you know that music, Calvin?
That's what the parents were playing in the car and what they were cleaning up. And I was going to say that Carly Simon album and like some of those albums, you had people who had intention about every track on their songs. But back then, a lot of albums were centered around the single, and then you just threw standards on there and some filler.
Right.
I feel like by the time you got to Off the Wall and Thriller, those are two albums where there was an effort to make sure every song connected. And I think that set the tempo and the blueprint for everybody that followed after.
Right. George Floyd.
I think that's the wake-up call for a lot of people. I was saying this on one of the lives not too long ago, especially for like Black people, I feel like we've had, depending on your generation, you have the wake-up call. My wake-up call was a combination of Katrina, the response to Barack Obama's election and how he was treated, and then Trayvon Martin and Zimmerman getting off. Those are my three wake-up calls. But I think a lot of people, George Floyd to me is what Rodney King was in 91, where it's on video. People finally are seeing what folks are talking about. Only this time, social media exists and it spreads. And I do feel the country had an opportunity to really correct things, and we went right back to the same nonsense. But for them 2 or 3 months afterwards, I did almost have my hopes up. But yeah, definitely a wake-up call for a lot of folks.
Yeah. 4th grade.
4th grade?
Mm-hmm.
What was I doing in 4th grade?
Were you in the country?
I was in Italy. Oh, that's when I discovered Janet Jackson. Okay. Yeah, the Velvet Rope Tour. That, like I said, that concert from earlier. Yeah, that's when I became obsessed as a kid. So I'll say 4th grade. Yeah.
Okay.
Either that or I'm not gonna tell that story. My mom was still listening. Okay.
All right, love.
Oh, evolving. And I say that because I feel like the love you have for people constantly shifts and adjusts. And I was telling this to somebody in a conversation of grief. And I think one of the reasons that you're so sad or hurt when somebody transitions is because everybody, you have a specific love you have for each and every person, right? A special love that only they get. Like you got a special love just for Latte, right? You got a special love just for Little Mike, right? And then, but unfortunately, in the event that if somebody were to transition, you can no longer give that specific love to that person anymore. And that's where the grief comes from, because you have no place to put that love. So it kind of just sits and feels like it's no longer tended to, right? So I always feel like love is something that's evolving and constantly shifting. And the way that you love people even changes as you get older.
Right. Okay, this is the last one. Karen Sue.
Oh, I was like, who? God sent. I'll say that. The coolest thing about getting older, the relationship you have with your parents shifts from do as I say before you get your teeth knocked out to now we can laugh about stuff. And I will say, I feel like our relationship, especially after my father passed, definitely evolved into this special space where there's like almost a friendship. Me and her can get on the phone and laugh and just crack up at stuff. And you never think as a teenager or as a kid that will be the relationship you have with your parents as you get older. But yeah, and I mean, she's definitely been supportive. Like even this very MacBook that we're on right now, she bought for me 10 years ago when I was launching the web series. And just to kind of paint the picture of how things align, right? So I did the web series because I got rejected from music business school. And so the next thing was like, oh, I'm not going to sit here and soak. Let me do something else. So then I did the web series. I needed a MacBook because I needed editing software. So she was nice enough to buy me the MacBook. It was like $1,300, right? And then with that, I learned how to use Final Cut Pro, which was video editing. That enhanced the YouTube channel because now I could have visuals and supporting things with that. YouTube channel starts to get legs. And because I'm starting to make additional funds, it helps me to afford to buy studio equipment. Equipment ended up creating the space where I could record my albums and the podcast. And then the podcast opened those doors to now I just shot a short film. So even those small love tokens from 10, 50, however many years ago, you never know where they take you later down the line. Right?
That's right.
So, yeah, it all comes together.
And for those of you that don't know, Karen is Calvin's mama. And she is in the chat. I want to show you what she just put in the chat.
Hey, mama.
So I want to go through the comments in the chat because you have some. Yeah. Let me go back up. Here we go. Yes, mama is active in this chat. Don't make no mistake. All right. You just said thank you for your service, young king. All
Thank you.
right. And listen, you don't have to be in the military to provide a service to the world. What you are
Right.
doing is a service to your followers, to people who stumble upon your YouTube channel, which I don't believe in coincidence. There's something in it for everybody. And
Yeah.
I think that the work that you do is necessary, it is important, and I commend you. I'm really, really proud of you. I
Thank
really
you.
am.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
There was a question in here too. Let me see if I can find it. Um, oh, here it is from Omega. Any tips on transitioning into web development?
Ooh.
Mhm.
Get familiar with a lot of the software. I know a lot of companies, especially that like companies that have their websites, a lot of them do their websites through software like Drupal or even
Mhm.
SharePoint. I would always say learn at least one of those as far as how to use the software. I would say do that. I would
Mhm.
say even just getting a certification in something in relation to it, even if it's coding. Coding is really where the money is at, or that kind of. There's so many layers you can go into. You can go into like cybersecurity or IT. I'm more so on just kind of managing what's already there and
Mhm.
enhancing what's there. There's so many different spaces, I would say, and a lot of companies have pretty much like internship programs or onboarding programs that train people because they realize a lot of this stuff is new and some of this stuff wasn't available, you know,
Mhm.
5 or 6 years ago in regard to like training people. So I would definitely say if you can get some kind of certification, some kind of class.
Mhm.
My experience was already just self-taught kind of. I just teaching myself and then kind of figured it out on my own. But for people who don't want to be difficult and aren't too big-headed to just ask for help, um,
Right.
go and yeah, take a class, get training. And honestly, YouTube University, I always say is everything. Like I had when I bought my studio equipment, I think I laid on the floor for 2 days annoyed because I couldn't figure out how to use it and went straight
Mhm.
to YouTube, like how do you use Pro Tools? And after watching, because everybody is anxious to share stuff and you can literally get everything you want just from YouTube. But yeah, getting into those spaces, if they have mixers and stuff, go to those mixers. A lot of it's networking. There's people who will want to train you.
Mhm.
If you're on LinkedIn, find the different groups that fall into those
Mhm.
spaces. Because once you kind of jump into a network, everything just kind of comes together. And that even for
Right.
this role, it was kind of scary because that wasn't my lane. My whole lane was youth development and
Mhm.
music, entertainment stuff. So jumping into something totally left field from anything I had ever done, I was a fish out of water. And
Mhm.
so yeah, it's
Mhm.
it's it's a lot, but I think it's worth it.
So you have a message here from Sister Tabitha Tart.
Hey, Tabitha.
Congratulations. We all knew you when you were a little kid.
I know,
And
right?
look at you
Yes, let you
now.
know I'm only 24, guys. I'm only 24. Only 24.
All right. There's a question from Dro Mario. Actually, not a question, but he just wants you to know. He said, I like the fact Calvin is famous without the Hollywood. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Dro. Shout out to you. Yeah, we follow each other on Instagram, I think, too. Yeah.
Without the Hollywood. Um, oh, Omega had another question. The other question was also from me regarding his experience with casting his late father in the new film. Okay.
Yeah. So, Robert Townsend was our mentor for this project. And
Mm-hmm.
so he actually teaches at USC's film school.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say it will have to be a podcast episode talking about shooting this film, because when I tell you everything under the sun that could happen happened, where you just
Mm-hmm.
like, how? Like stuff you couldn't imagine. And I mean, like terrible things. Great experience, but stuff that you got to look back on and you can laugh about it later, but you in the moment about to jump out the window. And so we actually, he was the sixth or seventh person as far as well, let me slow down. Bobby McGee is the person that's playing Earl. Earl is who my dad's character is based off of. So
Mm-hmm.
and actually it's interesting because Earl was my dad's brother's name.
Right.
Yeah, so the characters, instead of using my actual family, we switched them all around. So my character's name is Trey.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus's character is Marquand. My
Mm-hmm.
mom's character is Carol, and that's an inside joke because my step grandma never had her name right and always called her Carol. Carol, Carol. So even before she died, my mom was still Carol. So I was like, that's an inside joke. And then Earl. But Bobby McGee, he has been in a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He was in Five Heartbeats. He's
Mm-hmm.
been on a few episodes of The Upshaws on Netflix. He was in Harlem Nights. He was on the Jamie Foxx show. He's been on a bunch of stuff. He has tons of credits to his name. So he and Robert are good friends. And so we had already had 5 or 6 people audition for the role, and they were great. But you want the entire cast to have that right chemistry, and he just kind of had the right energy for what we were looking for. Because the other thing too, because it's a reimagining, and we're not just doing it verbatim as a podcast. We wanted the characters to have some development and some life. So I think for people who are watching, I don't think you're gonna think it's my father, but you'll be able to see elements like, yeah, that's something he would have did. But it's more comedic because my dad could be funny, but he's real stern, right? So we needed somebody to make, because it's family oriented. I didn't want there to ever be a moment where people feel like, okay, this is intense. Because look, I was fearing for my life in the car at that point, but we don't have it feeling like that in the movie. It's all funny. So yeah.
I was gonna say he gave you the title of the film.
Yeah, and he was serious. So my mama had to step in from the backseat. He was about to scream because I was doing everything wrong. We had cut the tire, the rim was messed up and they had just bought the car. Like just brand new Forte. I cut the tire on the soft shoulder and ran through the 4-way stop. He was, man, Marcus in the back laughing. So
wow, yeah.
We had a casting agent. What did they? Well, we didn't. That didn't even help us because by the time we got through it all, Robert Townsend got us Bobby McGee. Brett Austin Johnson, he was on Netflix in one of the Netflix shows. He was a friend of the director, so he's the one who kind of plays me. Zion Robinson, I found there's a website called Backstage where you can get dancers, singers, comedians. For anybody who wants to ever do entertainment, or whether you want to find talent or be the talent, Backstage is a great place to sign up for if you're trying to discover people or be utilized. So we found him from that. He was great. Lorinda Hawkins actually was God sent because she was not the original Carol. We had this wonderful actress, Madriana, and as I was on the plane to LA, because we were going to shoot, call time 7 a.m., Madriana got RSV and could not do it. And I landed at 11 p.m. and I had like 7 hours to find a new Carol. And I happened to find Lorinda on Backstage. And she too has a bunch of credits to her name. She was also in 5 Heartbeats and also in Harlem Nights, and on a bunch of different TV shows, Living Single and everything. And I just sent this desperate message because when I say I wanted to just sit on the plane and just tell the pilot, just go and fly back to DC. I'm over this. But I was done. I was like, what else could go wrong? Like every day it was something. I was like, Lord, help us. And so, but she was like, oh, I'm totally down. And I mean, she came in last minute, had all her lines down and was ready on day one. And even Madriana's clothing fit Lorinda. I said, Lord. That was the casting process.
The Lord will make a way. I'm telling you.
Well, I had gospel playing on the plane because we knew she was sick and we were just hoping she could make it. So I had gospel the whole flight, 5 hours. Come on, Lord, do it. And then as soon as I landed, director's like, she can't do it. Said, all right, Lord, what we about to do? I'm over here. This movie getting shot tomorrow. Somebody gonna be in it. So,
somebody play. I could sit here and talk to you all day. You are a great conversationalist. I think that's why your YouTube channel is so popular. Because
them lives be so long.
Yeah, to their little brother, their big brother, whatever. People just want to sit back, unwind. It's the end of the day. They can pop onto your YouTube channel and listen to your commentary on anything and everything.
Yeah.
Well,
I appreciate you for inviting me on. So this was fun.
Thank you for
and y'all subscribe to her channel, y'all. We got to get her to start singing on it because she sings and don't be telling anybody.
Best Life TV, yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. And I have to tell you that you've inspired me. All these years that I've been singing, I have always wanted to put an album out.
Yeah, because I remember the Singing Sister account. I was waiting.
Yeah, this will be the year that I put my album out. I don't know who's going to produce it. I have never tried to write a song, but you have inspired me. You let me know you take that raw talent to God and he will mold it into something that is amazing. So I'm going to take that advice and this will be the year that I put an album out. Absolutely.
Amen.
Yes.
Receive.
Thank
Look,
you for
if you
that.
need a track, let me know. I ain't dabbed in the gospel yet, so but that's where we're rooted, so that might be a
All
thing.
right, I will. I will
I'm
let you
not a
know.
gospel voice, so that's why I ain't make no gospel music. But
My
you need a certain voice for gospel. I ain't got it.
my last question for you before we end the show. What is the best? Actually, I have two questions. What's the best piece of advice you ever got from your dad?
I don't even think it was advice. It was more so just how I saw how he moved. My dad
Mhm,
was always smooth in everything.
mhm,
Never
mhm,
would overreact. Never panic. You
mhm,
know, if he was scared, I would have never known.
mm,
If we were driving and some lunatic cut us off and we're about to flip the SUV, he's like this the entire time.
mm,
And so that kind of taught me that kind of cooler heads prevail. That's always kind of been his way of moving things. And so I kind of take that same approach. So I think
mhm,
even with working with the kids sometimes, I'll true story really quick. I'll zip through it. I was taking the kids on a field trip. They had just had this really great school year. I took them to this place called Funland, which is kind of like a big Chuck E. Cheese, but they got rides and stuff. And it was maybe an hour from my center. And so I remember we were driving back. We'd had a great time. They cotton candy and took all my money. And so we're coming back. We're on 95, and something told me get in the far right lane because I was driving. You got to drive the bus too. Like man, working with kids, you do everything. You cooking, you wiping noses, you driving the bus. And so I was driving the bus. I was in the left lane because hey, let's get home. I'm ready to get y'all home. I'm tired of seeing y'all. I love y'all, but I want to go home. It's been loud all day. Something kept telling me get in the far right lane. And so I was like, all right, let me get in the lane. As soon as I got to the far right lane, the
mhm,
back right tire blew out. And then the
mm,
bus swung shifted straight to the left. And the good thing was if we would have still been in that left lane, we would have hit that median head on at
mhm,
70 miles an hour.
mm,
But with that, now you're trying to drive a bus that doesn't have a back tire, right? And which is hard to steer. So I'm fighting with the wheel. All the kids are screaming. I'm like, y'all not helping. But in that moment, I'm just like this while all that's happening. Cause I was like, oh, we're gonna get to that soft shoulder. I was like, we are not about to wreck here. Not at all.
mhm,
Not on my watch. Cause I've never been in a car accident and it was not gonna be on this day with other people's kids. And so we were able to fortunately, I was able to control the bus enough to get to the side of the freeway and pull over. And then, everything else after that. But I was like this the entire time. And I kept saying I was so glad it was me driving and nobody else on the staff. And it's nothing against the other staff, but in that moment, that really was like a freak of nature type thing. And
mhm.
you definitely got to be somebody that is here. And I know
Yeah.
my favorite staff member I work with was not comfortable driving the bus. And I was so glad it wasn't them driving because it could have been a
Mhm,
totally different outcome. And so, yeah, that idea of just being calm. And so because I was like that, the kids were fine because I was talking to them while they're screaming, like, we're fine, guys. And really, I'm like, I don't know if we're going to be fine or not, but, we're good, y'all. Relax. I got it. And then, yeah. So that was scary because all it could have taken was just the bus to tilt back on that
mhm.
wheel that's now missing because the tire was gone. There was no tire when I pulled over. So
Wow.
yeah, that was scary.
So you
But
pulled the strength of your dad
yeah,
and seeing you be even.
I've always been
Wow.
here. Yeah.
That I love that. You have so much love in the chat. I'm telling you. Dro, where'd he go? Said, put God first and all other things will be added. Oh, we know that. Yeah.
Right.
Live by that. Absolutely. Let me see. Soul Flow. Oh,
What up,
wait a minute.
Soul Flow?
Omega, first of all, said, we love the 3 hour lives.
All
We
night.
love it. Yes.
I'll be working
Soul
the course.
Flow said, yes, we do love the 3 hour lives. He is an amazing teacher, orator, comedian, musician, and so much more. We crave his YouTube content and podcast. I know because I'll be over there.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And it was funny when we were talking in the pre-interview, and I was telling you that I've been following your YouTube channel, and you're like, "Yeah, that's why I stopped cussing because I saw you in."
Yeah, I was like, all right, I'm gonna stop. Let me clean it up some because them early years I had a mouth. Oh, I could say all the good words.
That made
And
me
then I
laugh.
started realizing I had a much older following too. I remember somebody left a comment one time. They're like, "Yeah, my grandma loves your channel. She just wishes you didn't cuss so much." I was like, "Oh no!" And then I started realizing, okay, all right, let's clean it up some. Plus, by then I was with the kids, so it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
so we cleaned it up.
Well,
And Sinbad is one of my favorite comedians, and he's hilarious without profanity. So Yeah.
True. And we want to make sure we keep praying for him because he's recovering. And it was
Nice.
so good to see the video that he put not too long ago, letting people know I'm still here. Keep praying for me. Yeah.
Right.
Well, thank you, Calvin. This was really fun. I can't wait to bring you back. I'm gonna definitely bring you back when the short film comes out.
Yeah, I'm
Absolutely.
around. I'm here.
Hopefully I get an invite to the film premiere.
Well, you
Yeah.
know what? They also have a Tacoma Film Festival that I think we're gonna try to get into as well. So that'd be really cool. Well, if they had to then, yeah, because I was like, I want to bring it home too. It takes place in Spanaway, so
Oh,
even though I'm out in LA, so yeah.
awesome. Well, you keep doing what you're doing. You keep doing what you're doing. God is blessing you tremendously. It's all over you. Um, just keep doing what you're doing. Keep believing in yourself, even when other people don't believe, even when you're not sure you have what it takes to do it. You're already doing it anyway. You do it all the time. So just keep doing that because it's working. And I just believe what the scripture says that all things work together for the good for of them that love the Lord. And I just believe that when you do right, good things happen when you do right. God will do right by you when you do right by others.
Right.
So you just keep doing what's right because it's right, not because people are watching you, but because it's right. And watch God bless you and bless your life in a powerful, powerful way, even more so than He already has. I just believe that the prayers of your parents and your grandparents and they're all over you. You can do whatever you want to do. God is gonna bless it.
Amen. I received that.
Yes. Well, we will definitely bring you back when your short film comes out, when your album drops. You got so much going on. The next project, we bringing you back so you can talk to us about it and tell us how it's going. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Oops, somebody else just popped in the chat. Um, Andrea Matthews. She was like, "Yes, I'm here for the 3 hour lives." Now, let me just tell you this before I let you go. Let me just tell you this. The attention span of people in America right now, most people ain't watching no 3 hour nothing. So the fact that you have 3 hour lives,
And they weren't supposed to be that long. They were supposed to be about 1 hour.
I'm just saying, though, and thousands and thousands of people are watching.
But I'll say to be fair though, I think too, because I don't put out a lot of content frequently, is you get something about
Right.
every other week. It's kind of compared to some people
Mhm.
who have something every day. So I kind of feel like I'm supposed to give them at least 2 or 3 hours since y'all not gonna see me for another week or two. And a lot of it is catching up on stuff I missed. And then I want to say half of that is the interaction with the chat. Honestly, like I have my 8 or 9 topics to cover, and then I spend a lot of time with the chat because I don't want the people in the chat to just think I don't see y'all. So I try to get to the comments, and then people have such great comments that it opens another dialogue. And before you know it, we done segued from talking about a piece of policy that was just voted in, and somehow we done shifted to why Burger King needs to put the fries back the way they used to be before 2011. Like it's just, it just goes everywhere. So yeah.
Yeah, I love those kinds of podcasts. Actually, I just turn it on and I'll be doing other stuff while I'm listening to it. So I get it. I absolutely get it. Well, thank you, Calvin. I
Yeah, no
appreciate
problem.
you.
This was good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm proud of you, and I will see you again real soon.
All right, we're waiting on this album.
All right. I'm gonna reach out to you. I'm gonna reach out to you. You said
Yeah.
you got some
Okay.
stuff, so I'm gonna reach out to you.
All
All
right.
right.
I
You
have
take
it
care.
down. All right. Good talking to you. See you later. Thanks, y'all, for watching.
All right. All right, everybody. That's our show. I am. I absolutely love Calvin Michaels. I do. Um. I. I think that the work that he's doing is changing lives. I think that people have grown to trust his judgment and his take on things. And that's why he has such a huge following. And that's why he has people coming back again and again and again and again. Anytime he goes live, his lives have thousands and thousands of views. And so I just believe, and I want to make sure I say the scripture right that I said earlier, because I know there's some Bible scholars watching, and I want to make sure y'all know I know my scripture. All things work together for the good of them who love the Lord and are the called according to his purpose. That scripture applies to Calvin Michael. So thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you for joining us. It was so good to have you. The month of April is my birthday month. Amongst other things, I have a lot going on in April. I'm traveling in April. I have just so much going on in April. So Girl Talk Sunday will be back in May. I may pop up just for a few minutes in April, but for the most part, April's busy, busy. So we'll be back in May with more shows and more guests. I have my eye on a really, really special guest. I can't tell you who it is yet, but once I get her booked, you will know who it is. I can't wait for that one. So thank you all for joining me tonight. I appreciate you. I see you in the chat, Dro. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. And just remember, you don't have to be some special person. You don't have to be this uber intelligent person. You don't have to be this well connected person. You don't have to be someone who was raised with a silver spoon in your mouth. You don't have to be any of those things to live out your purpose, to walk in your purpose. What you have to be is willing. You have to be willing. You have to be courageous. You heard Calvin say, when he created his YouTube channel, he didn't even tell anybody. He didn't want nobody to know. He was too scared to even advertise it because he didn't think people would receive it. And boy, was he wrong. He found out what he has to say matters. And so I encourage you to really think about why you're here. Why did God bring you here? Your life has meaning. It matters. Think about how you're using your life to build up other people, to make life better for other people. I was in church this morning and we had one of our elders, Elder Willie Tart, spoke this morning. And his message resonated so deeply with me. And he was saying, when we take on a servant's heart and we have a servant's mindset, just like Jesus, who came to serve and not to be served, that's how you help lift up other people. That's how you help build up other people. And so that's what my platform is all about. We do not spill tea over here. We may sip tea, but we don't spill tea. That's not what we're about. Over here, we're about self-improvement. We're about learning how to own, honor, and walk in your worth. Those things that really help to build you up so that you can go out into the world and use your life to build up other people. That's what this show is about. That's what Best Life TV is about. And that's what I'm about as the host of Girl Talk Sunday. And so I take what I do seriously. I don't take it lightly. Having this platform, and that's another thing. We all have a platform. It don't have to be an Oprah platform. It may not be, a Michael Jordan platform, but we all have a platform. Our platform is our life. And the way we conduct ourselves in our life, the way we use our life to make life better for other people, that's your platform. And so we all have a responsibility to use our platform to help make life better for our communities and for the people around us. So I just encourage you, use what's in your hand. Do whatever you can to make life better for other people. And watch God move in your life in a mighty, mighty way. I truly 100% believe that. So I'm on my soapbox. I'm done with my spiel. And that's what I believe. Thank you again for joining me tonight. I'll see you again in May for Girl Talk Sunday with Sandi. Have a good night and God bless.